Welcome back to the channel, guys. Now, there is a lot of controversy surrounding Girfonta Davis' name right now, especially because of his fight that he just had with Lamont Roach. Now, yes, we know that Lamont Roach and Girfonta Davis, they ended up fighting to a majority draw, which ultimately means that nobody won. But what everybody is stuck on is the fact that Girfonta Davis, when he was questioned on why he didn't win the fight and what was going on with him, he ended up blaming it on his hairstylist. Yes, he said the reason why he couldn't unlock his full potential and win the fight was because he had grease dripping down his face. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into a little more details on what happened. Okay, so we noticed during the end rounds of the fight that Girfonta Davis, he needed to wipe his face a lot. And then he ended up taking a knee, okay? And a lot of people felt like the referee should have seen this kneel that he did as a knockdown, because some people seen it as a result of Lamont punching Girfonta. But I guess the referee seen it as a voluntary thing that Girfonta ended up doing. I don't know what he was thinking at the moment. After the fight, that's when they questioned Girfonta. They were like, yeah, why did you end up taking that knee? Why did you end up needing to wipe your face so much? And he was like, there was a lot of grease in my face because I had got my hair done 2 days prior to this fight. Now, the crowd, I don't know, I guess they thought this was complete BS and they started booing him. And he's like, why are y'all booing me? Like, this is not a real thing, okay? Now, Girfonta Davis, his hairstylist, has now decided to speak out, y'all. And we're going to get into exactly what she had to say, because she was like, look, there was no grease in the products that I used on this man's hair. She ends up posting this picture showing the product that she allegedly used on Girfonta Davis' hair. And we can see on the product, it says no grease, okay? Right there, clear and plain as day, it says no grease. And then she says the grease in question. Then she ends up saying, I did his hair Wednesday. It's Saturday. He did press, gym, and weigh-in. That's no excuse. How much grease did I use? Darn. And then she ends up showing a picture of the room, and she's like, the grease in the room with us? Question mark. Take a look around. You see an overload of grease everywhere. Newsflash, you're not. Okay, and I think that's from a TikTok. And then she ends up showing the bottle once again. No grease, no alcohol, no flaking, all of that. It says it right there on the bottle. So she's basically insinuating that Girfonta Davis is capping on her and that he was lying about there being a lot of grease in his face. Plus, she said that she did his hair on Wednesday. So she's basically really saying he was capping about this situation. He was, in a way, lying about there being a lot of grease in his face, okay? Now, honestly, this situation is very, very messy, okay? I want to go ahead and get into things from the hairstylist perspective, and then we'll get into Girfonta Davis' perspective as well. Now, as for the hairstylist, at first I was like, girl, okay, you're being a little harsh, okay? Because she's continuously posting, and she's like, I didn't put a lot of grease in this man's hair, and she's posting the bottle and everything. But then again, it's completely understandable. She has a business, she has a brand that she has to stand up for, and ultimately Girfonta Davis, what he ended up saying kind of could have ruined her reputation. It seems like she does have a good reputation for her being a good hairstylist, so of course she's going to be very defensive when it comes to her passion and her business. So that's understandable, right? Even though, like I said, I don't think it was intentional for Girfonta Davis to mess up her business or her reputation with her business. Let's just say it that way. But I honestly feel like he was just making an excuse to save his reputation and his business. So, you know, sometimes when you're trying to save yourself, you end up throwing somebody else under the bus. It just seems like this was one of those types of situations, okay? But looking at the video, did not look like she used a lot of grease in Girfonta Davis' hair. Y'all already remember when your mama used to do your hair back in the day and she sent you off to school and she would put a little too much grease in your hair? Then you'd be playing at the playground and it'd be hot outside and then the grease would start to drip down your face. I think that's why what Girfonta Davis was saying was very relatable, because we're like, oh, okay, we understand. But looking at the video that she posted when she did his hair, I didn't see a lot of grease. Like, y'all already know back in the day, you would see the grease on your head after your mama got done. But I did not see the grease on Girfonta Davis' head. So I'm like, maybe the miscommunication is that he put the grease on his hair, or somebody else put the grease on his hair after he got his hair done, because once she did it, did not seem like there was a lot of grease on that man's head, okay? Now, let's go ahead and get into things from Girfonta Davis' perspective, okay? I don't know if there was a lot of grease or not. I don't know if his vision really got blurred by the grease. But what I will have to say is, even if it didn't, I think that Girfonta feels like he owed his fans an excuse or an explanation to why he didn't ultimately win the fight. Of course, we have to understand people are seeing this as a blemish on Girfonta Davis' record. We're used to Girfonta Davis winning, and a lot of people put their money on not seeing a majority draw, but they wanted to see him win. So the fact that he didn't win, honestly, I think that was a big SHOT. Obviously, I can't say that word, y'all. So it was a big SHOT to his ego, and it made him feel some type of way. So he felt like, look, I got to come up with something, like some type of explanation. To me, honestly, it just seems like Girfonta Davis wasn't really prepared. I don't know. That's just my honest opinion. Y'all gonna be like, no, I feel like he was prepared, but I just don't feel like he was prepared for this fight. A lot of people see it as Lamont was very skilled and very strategic in this fight, and I agree with that. I do feel like he's very skilled as well, but I just don't feel like Girfonta was completely prepared. Maybe he just wasn't taking it as serious. I really think that Girfonta and a lot of his fans thought that he was going to win, okay? But if there was a lot of grease in this man's head, who can tell him that there wasn't a lot of grease in his head? We just don't know where the grease came from. He did say that he got his hair done. He didn't completely say, oh, my hairstylist did it, but he was talking about getting his hair done, which, of course, a lot of people are going to assume you're blaming it on your hairstylist. Oh, your hairstylist put a lot of grease in your hair, okay? This is one of those situations where you're trying to basically save your image, your reputation, and your business, and sometimes you end up throwing somebody else under the bus, and that's what Girfonta ended up doing in this situation. He ended up unintentionally throwing his hairstylist and her business under the bus with him saying there was a lot of grease in my hair, trying to save his reputation because he has this reputation of winning. I don't know, y'all. This fight was ultimately very shocking. A lot of people want to see a rematch between Lamont and Girfonta. Honestly, I do too, okay? Who do y'all think would win if these two did do a rematch? Honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't put any money on it, but I don't know. I can't even say, okay? Because I do agree with people. I do see the talent in Lamont. I even see some people saying, I'm not even supporting Girfonta anymore. I'm going to support Lamont now. And I'm like, that's unfair. Don't do that to Girfonta Davis, okay? Because he is still a hard worker. He still worked really hard to get to where he is. But I don't know, y'all. To me, I just don't feel like he was completely prepared. And I know there's more research that has to be done to see if that's factual. That's just my honest opinion. Y'all can't take everything I say as factual, but just from what I seen during that fight, it just seemed like he just wasn't completely, it wasn't the Girfonta that we're used to seeing. That's just what I felt like during this fight. Honestly, do feel like Lamont was taking things just a little more serious than Girfonta was taking this fight. I think that Girfonta just automatically felt like, yeah, I'm a win, no matter what, I'm just going to win the fight, and it just didn't end up playing out that way, okay? But hey, what we can learn in this situation, don't throw nobody else under the bus trying to save your business and your reputation, because that's not fair. Because sometimes you do unintentionally end up throwing somebody else under the bus, which what happened in this situation with Girfonta and his hairstylist. Now, she has to stand up for herself because she's getting all of this criticism and backlash. And not only is she standing up for herself, she's standing up for her business. Because I was like, at first I was like, girl, hold up. Because I know that Girfonta paid you a pretty penny for you to do his hair. So not too much on him. But then again, this makes her look bad. This makes her business look bad. So why not stand up for your career, your business, Why not stand up for yourself? And that's what she ended up doing, which I'm glad she did it. She clocked that tea. She showed no grease in these products. So what you talking about? Did you put the grease in your hair? That's what had to have happened. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Also, let me know what you think about the fight. Do you want to see a rematch? I'm not going to act like I know a lot about boxing, so I don't know if they actually do rematches or how long it takes for a rematch to be done. But if you know a lot about boxing, let me know in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching Room for Tea. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a blessed rest of your night.